Pesachim Daf Chavches Koyach. Today's letter comes from Stan Fireman from Muncie. Afreil Chanukah from your Talmud in Muncie. After about 30 years of learning the Daf, I'm finally getting it thanks to you. Thank you, Stan, for the beautiful gift. So we're in the middle of the sugya. Rabbi Yehuda holds that biur chametz is only by burning. Yesterday he made 2 attempts, which Gemara was doicha, and today for the final and third attempt, Rabbi Yehuda says noisar. When you bring a carbon and you're supposed to eat it in a certain allotted time, and you pass that time, that meat is noisar. It's a deraisa bal toisiru. Chametz also has a similar lav. Bal yiro, bal yamotzi, you're not allowed to have, you're not allowed to keep it. And if noisar is something that you burn, so too chametz you must burn. So Chachamim tell him, you yourself are a tchiyah to this pshat. Why? Because you say that a asham tali, if somebody is not sure whether or not he has to bring a carbon chatos, so he brings a carbon asham besafik, or a woman who's not sure if she gave birth or not, and if she would give birth, she would have to bring 2 birds. Now she brings 2 birds besafik. One is an oila that you could just bring the nadava. The second one is a chatos, and on the tzad that she's not a yoledes, she didn't give birth, then the kain is doing melika in the azara, and that's chulim ba'azara. Nevertheless, she could bring those besafik. The halacha is that by the asham taloi, Rabbi Yehuda says you bury it, and Chacham say you burn it. So you yourself, Rabbi Yehuda, approve that noisar, the leftover, you bury, you don't burn. And the Gemara says that's 3 sayings that people say. The carpenter who hollows out wood to make a cup at the end burns himself with that cup that he created. So to Rabbi Yehuda, his own halach is what burnt him. And in fact, Rabbi Yehuda was quiet. He didn't have what to answer. Although we do paskin like him. The person who creates leg shackles, if they catch him later on stealing, they'll use the leg shackles to shackle him. And the person who creates arrows will be shot with his own arrow. We learned in the Mishnah that Chacham argue on Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda says you have to burn the chametz. Chacham say you could just crumble it up and throw it into the wind, or matlayam, you put it into the ocean. So we have a machlekes here, and similarly we have the same machlekes by Avodah Zarah. Does it mean you throw it into the ocean and that's a completely different statement? You just take it as is and throw it into the ocean, or it means mefarer, you crumble it up. You could either toss it into the wind, or you crumble it up and toss it into the ocean. Same thing with Avodah Zarah. Do you grind it down and toss it into the wind, and grind it down and toss it into the ocean, or you just take it whole and throw it into the ocean? Rabbi says Avodah Zarah that you throw into Yam HaMelech, the Dead Sea, and there's no boat traffic there, so nobody will pick it up, and therefore you don't need to grind Avodah Zarah. Whereas when it comes to bread, people just throw it into the regular water, and someone on a boat might come and retrieve it. And the brayso that says that Avodah Zarah you do have to grind up before you throw into the water, it's talking about Sharnar, it's not the Dead Sea. Other waters, bodies of water that people go by with boats. Rabbi Yosef says, Avodah Zarah that's metal, you have to grind up before you throw it into the water. Bread that dissolves by itself, you don't have to grind up. The brayso that says mufurish, that if you're on a boat, you should crumble up the bread before you throw it into the water, is not talking about bread. It's talking about a sack of wheat. And if it goes in together in one sack, there's a problem. Somebody might find the sack. So what you do is you spread it out. No one's going to go collect small pieces of wheat in an ocean. Says the Mishnah, this is the Mishnah about chametz she'avar olav Pesach. Says the Mishnah, if you have chametz that was kept by a guy throughout Pesach, so after Pesach, you're permitted to benefit from it. Mutar b'hana. But if it's that of a Jew, since the Torah says v'lo yira, this is according to the Maskana of the Gemara, Rashi brings it here, you're over an aveira of lo yira, so Chacham gave you a knas, they penalized you, and they said you cannot benefit from your chametz. The Gemara starts off, there are 3 shittas that we're going to get into, but which one of the 3 shittas is our Mishnah? For that question, we have to wait until tomorrow. The preview is, Rabbi Yehuda holds that chametz is asur ba'achila and b'hana erev Pesach from 6 hours on. On Pesach itself, of course, it's asur ba'achila b'hana, but you get kares for that. And after Pesach as well, you're over on Isur Hana. Can't have any Hana from it. According to Reb Shimon, it's only on Pesach itself. Erev Pesach, there's no Isur. On Pesach itself, there's a lav and kares. After Pesach, it's okay. Rabbi Yosef Aglili is of the opinion that on Pesach, you could even benefit from the chametz itself on Pesach. It says in the pasuk, Lo soichal olav chametz. You shouldn't eat with the carbon Pesach chametz. So Rabbi Yehuda is of the opinion the pasuk is coming to talk about when you start shechting the carbon Pesach. Erev Pesach v'chatzos. Rabbi Shimon says, wait a minute, look at the end of the pasuk. The end of the pasuk says, Shivas yom tochal olav matzos. It's not talking about the time of shechita. It's talking about when you could eat matzah. You only start eating matzah leil haseder. So the isser of chametz is leil haseder and on. Rabbi Yehuda says that the end of the pasuk comes to teach us that there's a mitzvah in our days to eat matzah. Rabbi Shimon says that you could learn from the extra word of erev toichlu. Rabbi Yehuda says erev toichlu comes to say that if somebody's tamei and he cannot bring a carbon pesach, if somebody's traveling, he's far away, can't bring a carbon pesach, nevertheless he has a chiyuv matzah. Rabbi Shimon says you don't need a pasuk for people like that. Somebody who's tamei, somebody's traveling. If a person who cannot perform a bris milah on himself because his brothers died performing the bris milah, even though he can't bring a carbon pesach because it says kol arel, and a mummer as well can't bring a carbon pesach, these two people are chayiv in matzah. Rabbi Yehuda says we need the pasuk for arel and ben nechar. We need the psukim by us, a person who's traveling. Why? Because something that you could learn out of a kavachaymer tarach v'kasav l'kra. According to Rabbi Yehuda, we have three psukim. We have loy soichal olav chametz, which comes to tell us the isser of eating chametz before Pesach. V'chol machmezes loy soichelu comes to tell us the isser of eating it on Pesach, and loy yei achel is after Pesach. Rabbi Shimon says v'chol machmezes loy soichelu comes to say that if the dough became leavened chametz through another agent, is still asur b'achila, still considered chametz. And the pasuk loy yachel chametz is Pesach. The original Pesach when Klal Yisrael came out of Mitzrayim was only for one day. Rabbi Yehuda says that this idea that Pesach is one day, either I can learn from the Smuchim, the Psukim are close to each other, or Rabbi Yehuda doesn't even learn Smuchim in the rest of the Torah, only in Sefer Dvarim. And therefore, Rabbi Yehuda holds that the first Pesach was actually 7 days. And this halacha, that chametz can be achieved through any other agent, Rabbi Yehuda learns from the word machmetzet. It's written differently. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.